Hi, Mark Reedy here. In this video I'm going to help you with work orders. So in order to create a brand new work order, you're going to click on the Work Orders tab. So you want to click on a piece of equipment first and then click on the Work Orders tab, and then go down here to the button at the bottom that says New Work Order. Go ahead and click that, and you can see at the top here we've got some stuff that's already pre-filled in, and this all comes from the equipment itself over on the equipment summary screen. And what you can do is you can fill in a reference number if you've got an outside reference number you want to use. The person that requested it is over here, requested by. The requested date is automatically filled in with the current date. Complete by date is the date that you want to have this done by. If the item is going to be, or this particular work order is completely a warranty issue, you can click that, or if it's a recall issue, you can click that. And the completed date is the date that was actually done. When you put a date in here, the work order is considered completed or no longer pending, and at that point you can print it out as either a completed work order or as an invoice if you choose to. Completed miles, kilometer, this is where you're going to put your odometer reading at the time of the completion of the work order, and or you can put that in the beginning, either way. And the completed equipment hours, this is the hours meter. If you don't have an odometer in the equipment, and you can put the hours meter reading there. Labor items, this is pulled from this tab here over where it says labor completed, so you can't fill this in manually from this box. Miscellaneous, this you can put in your own amount here, and you can choose whether this miscellaneous item is taxable or not, and this will be based upon whatever taxes you choose down below here. Parts and materials used, you cannot enter manually into this box. That information is pulled, or the data and the cost are pulled from this tab here for parts and material used. And then the taxes, you're just going to put in the tax percentage here, and it's going to calculate it based upon your parts and materials used, and your if you want miscellaneous, that's going to add that in as well. And over in under File, My Company Information, you'll see a checkbox there if you want to charge sales tax on labor as well. So then it would calculate sales tax on the labor. The default sales tax percentage, this DF button here, that'll pull in the default percentage from your My Company Information again underneath File. So File, My Company Information, and you will see the default tax rate that you want to charge, and obviously you can manually override that with whatever tax rate you want. If we just click that, it's going to ask me if I want to use the default tax rate, and this particular database is not set with any default tax rate, so it's not going to display any value there. Grand totals is going to total everything up for you, take the taxes minus all your items, minus any discounts, multiply the taxes in, add that in, and then give you your grand total. You can update the totals at any time if you have maybe made some changes and they haven't propagated to any of these fields. You can just update the totals. That will also happen when you do a save and close. Okay, so then we'll go over here to the description, and the description tab here, and you can see the first choice we have is service by. Now this can be your own shop, or it can be an outside vendor. So, and you can add to this drop down on the fly so that these can be populated with other vendors, outside vendors, if you want them to. Short descriptions are going to be populated on the fly as well, and you can put as many of these in here as you want to, and you can choose from the drop downs, and you can see here they've got a few blanks. So you can add, just choose from the drop down, or you can type in here and it will start to pre-fill it in with information, so that you might not so that you don't maybe type something in that was already in the system, or something that's close to what you were typing in, so you don't have semi-duplicates where you have a slight misspelling on one and spelled correctly on the other. So we can choose that. You can, like I said, you can put as many short descriptions as you want there. The detailed description, you can put in up to 65,000 characters in this field, and just be as detailed, as much detail or as little detail as you want there. And then we're going to go up to the labor completed, and you click the tab first, and then you click this big button here that says click here to add labor to this work order. Click that, and units is basically how many hours of time we're on this particular labor item, so we'll just say 1 there. This rate here is the default labor rate, and that also can be set underneath File My Company Information. And this is going to be the default labor rate for anybody, and you can override that and put whatever amount you want in there for each labor item if you need to. And then you can have performed by employee, or if you have performed by vendor. Vendor is basically going to be the service by on the description tab. So we'll just change that to employee, and we'll choose an employee here, and then the description, you can put in the description, and you can add to this list on the fly just by typing into this field. You need to have, if you've chosen an employee, you need to choose a actual employee that did the labor item. You can't leave that blank. And you always need to have a description as well. Notes are optional. And then the repair code, you don't have to put this in, but this will help you to categorize your repairs. So you can have multiple repair types within one work order. So maybe you've done tires, and maybe you've also done brakes, so that you can split out the costs and see where you're spending your money overall for your entire fleet. So we'll just say chassis here, for example, and then we'll just do an add labor to work order. You can see it gets added to the list up here, and then I can choose that, and it pre-fills it back in. Again, if I just click add to work order, then we're going to have an empty fields here, and then you can start with another labor item that you want to add. Once you've finished adding all the labor items to a work order, you just do a save and close, and then you can see here underneath the labor completed tab that we have whatever the labor items were for this particular work order, and we can see that the costs got updated over here as far as the labor. Next we have parts and materials used, and you can click that tab and then click the button here that says click here to add parts or materials to this work order. So we'll go ahead and click that, and here you can double click in this drop down list to bring up the actual parts inventory screen. So I'll do that. I'll click that. Now we can see the parts inventory screen, and then so maybe you wanted to add something or alter something before you selected it from the drop down, so you can do that here, and then you can close that, and then you can select from the drop down, and in the drop down you also have over here you have bin location and bin number, and if that information has been added, let's go ahead and do that real quick. So we will look at what this 010010, this one right here. We'll give that a bin number or bin location. First we got to edit it. We're going to click the edit button here, and we're going to say shop, and we're going to add that, and then we're going to say bin number 2, and then we'll just close that, and then we're going to look at this one here. We'll scroll off to the right. You can see shop and bin number 2, so the location and the bin number. I'm going to choose that one, and you can see that it put that bin location and bin number down here in the notes. Alright, it also brought in your cost per unit, and I'm going to have, you've got to enter a quantity here, so I'm going to say, you can also see the quantity on hand, so there's 50 on hand right now, so I'm going to go ahead and put 5 on there, and then I'm going to click deduct from inventory, and you can see here that now we have the quantity on hand before was 50, quantity on hand after is now 45. You can mark it as a warranty item if you want to, just for informational purposes. And the same thing is like on the labor, you can choose a repair code to assign to this particular part item. And I'm going to click add part to work order. You can see it gets added to the list, and then I can choose it if I need to edit it or make any changes. And then if I needed to make a change to the quantity or the part number for this one, then I would uncheck the deduct from inventory like that, and you can see here it's got my quantity on hand back at 50 because I'm no longer deducting it from inventory, And so if I change this to 6 instead of 5, you can see here now my quantity on hand is down to 44. So now I can just do a save and close, or add part to work order, continue adding parts to the work order until I've gotten all the parts I needed for this particular work order. Now we're going to click on Save and Close, and we can see it's added to the work order here. And one thing we can do is, if you want to, you can click here to add these parts to the Parts for This Equipment tab for this equipment. So that is this tab right here above the work orders and to the right here. It says Parts for This Equipment. That can be, if you want it to be, it can be an ongoing list of every part ever installed, or if you have a commonly used parts list that you want to keep just so you can have quick access to on that tab, then for example, if all the parts in this list were commonly used, you could click that and it would add all the parts in this list to that Parts for This Equipment tab over here. It's not necessary for you to have them in both places, because you're going to be able to run reports on all the parts in work orders anyways. All right, so so that's it for the parts, and then we're going to take a look at the attachments. And when you have attachments, you can basically give it a description of the attachment, and I mean, this could be a picture, it could be you know, a picture of of damage or something, or anything like that, or maybe a parts invoice or something like that, whatever you want it to be. And then you just can double click in this field here where it says attachment file, or you can click on the attach new file button down here. So I'm just going to double click here, and that'll open up. And so now I'm going to go and see if we have anything I can attach to this. That well, it really doesn't matter what kind of file it is, but let me just find something that, here, I got an idea. Let's do this. Okay, so we'll say this test.txt document. All right, so now we've attached the file, and keep in mind that these attachments are going to be, if you are in a network location, the attachment should be in a central location that everybody has access to, the same path to that file. Because if it's on your C drive like you see here, it's going to be on your C drive, not on somebody else's C drive. So if they try to open it, they're not going to be able to open it because it's on your C drive and not theirs. So if you put it on like a T drive or whatever common drive or folder you have on a network, keep your shared attachments on that location and then link to them, and then everybody will be able to access them. So in order to look at a file, as long as you have that particular program that can read that file or open that file on your computer, you're going to click on this little magnifying glass icon here, and you can see that brings up the document. All right, I'll just go ahead and make a change to that, save that, and we'll click it again. You can see it opens up the document. So as long as you have that particular program on your computer, for example, if it's an image, if it's a PDF file, if you have Adobe Acrobat to open up PDF files, then this little button here will open it up in Adobe Acrobat so that you can look at the document and then print it out or do whatever you want with it. Okay, and now so let's go to the final thing here is we'll go ahead and I'm going to show you the print preview while the work order is pending. We'll click on that. You can see it says work order pending, and we can see some information down here like notes. We can see the bin location and so forth. So we have all the information that we need is right there on the pending work order. You could print this out. Also, if you start off with a work order with no parts and no labor, you can print out a blank work order with just the description of what needs to be done. And if you leave the labor and parts out of it, you're just going to have lines here, a number of lines that the mechanic or the technician can fill in order to populate that with the information it needs to be populated with, and then given to somebody else to actually enter the data. All right, so there's that. And then to make this a completed work order, I'm just going to double click in this completed date, and that'll put in today's date right here. And now I'm going to click on print again. You can see we get this pop-up that asks me if I want to print it as a work order. And I also have the option to stop asking if I want to print it as a work order, and also to always print completed work orders as an invoice. So I'm going to say yes, just so you can see how that looks. You can see it's changed the top from saying completed work order to now it just says invoice. All right, so that way you can use that to pass out an invoice to a client. All right, and okay. So a couple of other things I'm going to show you real quick. We've kind of gone over the work orders there. On this tab, you have ways to display your work orders, like only non-completed, only completed, and then you can sort by these with this sorting here. But you can also sort using these buttons at the top. If you want to sort by any of these columns, you can do that. All right. Okay, so let's go up to Forms and then Work Orders List. And here you can actually look for a specific work order, no matter where it is in your fleet. Doesn't matter which equipment it's on. You can type, if you know the work order number, you can type it in here, click search, and that will bring it up. You can also sort this. This basically is all work orders. If you wanted to just see only the pending work orders, you can choose to filter it there, or only the completed work orders, you could filter it there. And then all the work orders with a non-default sales tax. So if you need to go in and look at those, if there are any, and if you want to correct those for any reason, you can. All right. So basically, I'm going to look at the I'm going to look at the pending work orders here, and now you can just double-click on it, and it'll bring up that particular work order, no matter which equipment it's on, and go ahead and make any changes you want to it, additions, changes, and print out if you need to. So that's the all work orders list, and that also you can recalculate the totals at any time. It'll go through and force an update on every single work order to make sure all the totals are calculated properly. All right, and now a couple other things is the tools and preferences, and you'll see under here there's work order / invoices. And here you have a number of options. For example, you can hide the delete button on work orders, and this is anytime this preferences, all these preferences underneath tools are specific to that particular computer. So if you've made this change or set up something on one computer, it's not going to propagate to the others. So you need to make those changes on each computer so everybody's is customizable. All right, so you can hide the delete button on work orders so that you don't actually accidentally, or so you can prevent accidental deletion. You can choose to always deduct work order parts from inventory, so that little checkbox where you would deduct parts from inventory, that'll be checked every time you add a part to a work order. And also you can have it always update the quantity on hand date whenever you've deducted a part using a work order. And then there's always display inactive parts when adding parts to work orders. So normally those would be hidden from you on the drop down, and this is your default of who you want to have the labor performed by, whether it's the employee or the vendor. So that checkbox or that tick box would be one or the other depending on what you have the default here. Printing, well, we've got an extra format for the work order printouts, so this actually adds some extra fields, and you can play with that and look at that if you want to. And then you can stop asking to print completed work orders and invoice, and always print completed work orders and an invoice, and then always display parts notes on work order printout. So if you wanted to hide the parts notes, for example that bin number, bin location, then you could uncheck that, and that would hide the parts notes. And then the warranty checkbox and the recall checkbox, you can hide those on your work order printouts as well if you don't want the end user or the client to see those. Okay, I also wanted to show you this file, My Company Information, and you can see here the default sales tax for the work orders, and if you wanted to charge sales tax on labor, also if you wanted to charge sales tax on miscellaneous items, that's default, and that's how it comes from us, and then your default labor charge per unit or / per hour. All right, and now underneath reports, you can find out about your totals on your work orders by going to reports and then more reports, and then just change the report type to work orders, and here you have a whole slew of different reports from just basically looking at the work orders that are all open or pending, completed. If you want to see your labors and parts, your miscellaneous labor parts, just discounts and taxes. If you want to see your labor totals by employee number, now this can be over a specific date range. Labor totals by equipment. You can see just a list of your work orders, and you can see your costs by repair code and so forth. So you have a large number of reports that you can bring up and see your totals for your work orders there. All right, so I'm going to close that. There's another place where you can see some of your total information for work orders, and that's underneath reports, all equipment reports, underneath the cost per mile per hour report, this one here. You can choose to look at specific equipment, and then if you choose work orders, and you can choose other parts of the program to bring up and to get all your totals for any date range. And let's just go ahead and run that for these 3 pieces of equipment, and you'll see how that looks. Okay, so then we see our odometer, beginning and ending odometer readings on the equipment. We can see the total cost for our work orders here, and then our work order parts, work order labor, and so forth for each of those 3 pieces of equipment. And then we have our grand totals down here, and then our cost per mile is shown to us for each piece of equipment, and our overall cost per mile for all the equipment in this particular report that we see combined. And then we also have the underneath reports, all equipment reports. There's the repair codes cost per mile report, and here you can choose any or all of the different repair codes and see how much each of those is costing you per mile. So let's just go ahead and bring that up, and I'll select them all, and okay, so it showed us the repair code chassis and engine for this particular piece of equipment. That's the only place we've used the repair code on this database. And the repair code, total repair code cost, so you can see the total cost for each of those repair codes and the total repair code cost for this equipment. And now if we had an odometer reading, this is a chassis, so there's no odometer or hours meter reading, it would let us know the cost per mile or the cost per hour if it was based on an hours meter. And you'll also see some of that same information on the unit information report with all equipment data at the end of it. It's going to show you your cost per mile, and it's going to give you those work order totals. And then if we look at a specific piece of equipment in reports, and then unit information report with all equipment data, there's also one for the single piece of equipment, and that'll just bring it up for the equipment we're currently looking at, and that would give us basically, this prints out everything, you know, your inspections, your lube services, your work orders, tires, wheels, fuel log, pretty much anything that you've kept track of for this particular piece of equipment, it's going to show you, and at the end it's going to give you the cost per mile for the date range that you've chosen. Alright, that's it for this video. Hopefully that's been helpful. Sorry it went a little bit long, and thanks for watching. Have a good one. Take care.